Welcome to this week's SEO Strategy Lunch and Learn. As always, I am joined by my business partner and director of operations at our agency, Cesar Cobo.
Hey.
Today, we're going to be breaking down the website of Guillaumes Law. It is a Miami-based immigration attorney specializing in deportation and green cards. Our framework breaks a website analysis down into three simple parts. Number one is technical, number two is content, and number three is links. This website has no idea that we're doing this. They are not a client, but we wanted to give you some context of how we'd approach an attorney-based website to build a solid SEO strategy. So before we get into the analysis, let's talk quickly about what the goals for a website like this might look like. So goal number one is to increase the rankings for bottom funnel keywords. So when we say bottom funnel, we mean a keyword that has much deeper intent from a searcher to become an actual client of the law firm. So keywords like immigration attorney near me, green card attorney, South Florida, things along that nature, where we know the intent behind that search is much more purchase or bottom funnel intent. Goal number two follows right off the back of that. With increased rankings, hopefully will come increased leads. And we qualify a lead as a form submission or a phone call looking to hire the attorney for their services. Goal and objective number three is a little bit more high level. We want to increase the reach and brand awareness for this attorney in the local market. And we can do so by creating the right type of content that gets distributed properly, and then also getting placed on right websites, local websites that will help to spread the reach and footprint of this attorney in the local Miami market. So with that being said, Cesar went ahead and started the technical analysis. He dropped the website into a platform called Sitebulb, which helps us look at the technical parts of a website. Cesar, why don't we jump in and take a look at what you found?
What I'm looking for when I do a website crawl is to get a general understanding of how many pages are within the website structure. So here I can see that there's 252 pages. And then I want to compare that to Google's live index. So the way to do that is doing a site colon, and then you drop the domain here, and Google will tell you how many pages of your website it has in its index. So here, the difference is 100 pages. So I would expect it to be closer to the 250 pages. So I would want to investigate as to what are the pages that are not being indexed. And usually the cause of that are going to be the more recent pages. So in this particular case here, these the two latest blog posts are almost a month old already. And if you do the same search, but this time for those individual pages, so you want to leave everything here and just do the site colon operator again, you can see that these two latest blog posts are not even indexed. And this one in particular here would be problematic because for an immigration attorney, this is definitely a type of a type of page that is going to drive relevant traffic to your website. You absolutely want this page to be indexed. And we can see that it's not.
And that becomes a really big problem too, because they're spending time and resources to create this content, and it's on the website, right? So just to be clear, like just because you publish something on your website, we can see that there's 250 pages that are published on the website, right? But there's only 150 pages in Google's index. So there's 100 pages that for a multitude of reasons don't exist to Google. There could be directives on that page that are telling Google, hey, don't crawl me, don't index me, which we actually found in the crawl, but we're not going to go into in this video because it's a little bit too technical, a little bit too boring. However, we've identified this as a business and marketing problem because blog content is something that you actively want to Google to see. So that way customers can see it and prospects can see it. So they're creating content, but for a number of reasons, that content is not getting indexed. And for context, for those of you watching and listening, we don't have access to their search console. This is not a client, so there's only so much that we can investigate. But what we can do, Cesar, if you take this URL and we go back into Sitebulb, we can investigate to see if there's any what we call directives on this page that are holding it back. So an example of a directive could be like a no index tag, which is a piece of HTML that you put on a page. Sometimes developers will put it on by accident. Sometimes it might have carried over in a site migration that literally tells Google, do not index this page. There's other directives too, like a canonical tag. If there's similar content, you have a tag, canonical tag pointing to another page that could remove the page from Google's index. Or what Cesar just alluded to, what we want to understand is this something that we're not doing on this page? Is it not deep enough? Do we not have internal links to it? Does it not have external links to it? What is holding this back from Google wanting to index this page as being a quality page? So Cesar, do you think here that's holding this page technically?
No, so this is just a really quick answer. Indexable status is it's indexable. So there's no directive that is preventing it from being indexed.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I mean, this would be an example of something that we'll talk about this a little bit more in the content section of when we analyze this, but something that we'd really want to look into heavily and want to improve on this, because again, whether he spent money on this or not, it's important, but it's not overly important. The fact is that there's an intention behind this page. He put this on this site for a reason, and we want people to see it. And right now, it's not being held back by any mistakes from a technical point of view. It's more of a content issue, and we'll talk about that in a second. So let's jump back over to Sitebulb and see if there's any more insights that we can grab. So why don't we just quickly, let's filter here by HTTP status code to see if there's any 404 pages, any kind of like dead cruft pages that also might be holding this site back.
No, they're all 200.
Okay. So basically what we're looking for here is any 404 pages, which is a deleted page, which if there's a lot of them could be hindering crawl issues, right? Google doesn't want to crawl pages that are no longer live. All these things can impact what's called a crawl budget, which Google essentially allocates to a website to crawl, index. And again, if your website is not built properly, if you've got a bunch of status codes blocking it, a bunch of dead pages, a bunch of low quality pages, that can actually negatively impact your crawl rate, which could be a reason why they're not getting indexed, but we have to investigate a little bit more. I also see no 301 redirects. That's something else that we'll look for to make sure that 301 redirects are set up properly. Are they being used? Something that we might want to do here, Caesar, is actually look to see if there's pages. Every website should pretty much have 301 redirects set up at some point if you've ever done any sort of site maintenance. So something that we might want to do here is actually look at pages that are no longer relevant, that are thin, that we don't need, and we can actually clean those up using 301 redirects. Is there anything else inside of Sitebulb, Caesar, that you see? Anything else, any other insights, or do we move on to content from here?
Nothing in Sitebulb, but a way that you can check is for if there should be any redirects in place is using Ahrefs broken backlinks. So if there were any links that were going to 404 pages, because it could be that you have 404 pages, they're just not in the website structure, so you wouldn't see those. So you not only want to make sure that you don't have any broken pages on your website, but that there aren't any backlinks that are going to broken pages, which then you would want to redirect.
For sure. And just some other kind of quick hits on what we're looking for from an attorney website. This one seems to be pretty clean. We couldn't find too many issues with it, but we're looking at things like internal links, making sure that pages are properly linked together. Using internal links will help search engines to crawl, discover new pages, and distribute what's called like equity across the website. We're looking at website structure. This website does have what are called flat URL structures, which simply just means basically stripped down URL structures, nothing kind of crazy appended to the end of them, using proper subfolders and folders. Again, on a smaller website like this is pretty straightforward. And because it's on a platform like WordPress, it usually does things like that for you out of the box. So I think that's all we have in the technical analysis portion of this. Caesar, let's move over and start talking about content. So when it comes to attorney content, this is something that is also very often misconstrued and misunderstood. Really, there's two parts two types of content that you want to focus on. You want to focus on what we call bottom funnel content, which maps to bottom funnel keywords. So again, I alluded to this in the beginning of the video. Bottom funnel searches are going to be deeper intent searches, ones that are a little bit deeper in their discovery in terms of they know that they want to hire an attorney, and they know that they have a problem, and now they're using Google to just find the right attorney, make a phone call, interview, and hire said attorney. So the type of keywords that we want to focus on here are going to be things like Miami immigration attorney, Miami green card help, South Florida deportation lawyer. Again, all those keywords have a much deeper intent, which would then map to a different type of content on the website. So we call these service pages. They're called practice area pages on this website, which is a little bit different nomenclature than we're used to, but that works as well. And essentially what we want to do with these pages is we want to clearly map out, essentially, again, putting yourself in the shoes of the searcher. If somebody's looking for Miami immigration attorney, what type of information are they looking for on that page in order to complete that search and basically path down that page and then say, okay, this attorney has everything that I'm looking for. You've answered my questions. I am now ready to take the next step, which is to submit a form or to call up that attorney and become a lead. So when I talk about a bottom funnel service page, landing page, this over here is on the practice areas. It's the green card page. Caesar, we kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. These are pretty thin. This one seems to be built out a little bit more. But in your opinion here, what would you do to increase kind of the visibility in the rankings, just looking at the content on this page alone?
I just feel like it needs to be built out more. And if this is a service page, the goal of this page, it's not only to educate, but it's also to get people to pick up the phone and contact you. So I feel like it's missing that persuasiveness to it, because this just reads like a blog post. There's no persuasive language here as to, if I'm looking for an immigration attorney, why should I pick up the phone and call you?
For sure. And some of the things too that, this is a little bit of a technical trick, but if you right click and you're in Chrome and you go to inspect, whatever you click on, so you can see over here that this is an H2. So basically what we're checking on here is to make sure that the subheadings are used properly, that this is an H1, which it is. You can see the little H1 tag here. So, proper on-page structure is being used here. We have some internal links set up here. This one is also an internal link linking to another page, which is proper usage. So it looks like the overall structure here is solid. I do think I agree with you, Caesar, that number one is that we can definitely add just more text. More text tends to rank better. This page is a little bit thin for such a competitive search. Another thing that I like too is adding a little bit of personality here, maybe putting a video on the page talking about this process. If you have an iPhone 13, these things take 4K videos. You don't need a professional video shoot. Just set it up in your office and just talk through the process about getting a green card, talk about why they should hire you. And you can do that for every single one of these pages here. It just goes a very long way to add a little bit more color and personality. I also like images. If you have pictures of yourself, you have pictures of yourself working with clients, these things really help to go well. Another thing here too, Caesar, which I think would be huge, would be translating this website into Spanish. Clearly they say here, hablamos español. They are in Miami. They are immigration attorneys. I would guarantee that 90% of the people come to them and don't speak English. So this should definitely be something that's translated into Spanish and then also properly set up. Do you want to talk quickly about what the translation process looks like to get this to rank for both English and Spanish speaking queries?
You have to actually write the page in Spanish, have a Spanish specific page for it. Maybe you put it on a ES subdirectory, and you just have more control over the messaging. If you do that, you can use the hreflang to specify the language that it's in.
So I also took this URL and I dumped it into Ahrefs so we could see what keywords it's ranking for. And I think this also kind of helps to round out some of the content recommendations here. So you can see here the 4 keywords that it's picking up for, which is not much at all. Green card Florida, they're currently ranking 23rd. Pretty solid keyword, 80. Florida green card, past the green card, past the green card. They're hovering all above 20, which means they're getting absolutely no traffic for it. So, something else that I would do here is that you can clearly see up here in the title, he's targeting green card lawyer, South Florida, apply for green card for family. Title tag is actually too long. You're going to want to pick one of these and go with it. You can't have more than, 50 characters or so in here. But the other thing too, is I think is really, really, really qualifying in terms of South Florida and also getting a little bit more hyper specific. He's in Hollywood, Florida. So, Hollywood, even going and maybe peppering some Miami. I think just adding some location-based content on here, Caesar, to like really hyper qualify that this is somebody in South Florida. They have an office. Again, talking about what that process looks like coming from South America. Again, knowing who your customers are. You alluded to it a little bit more, using a little bit more copy as opposed to just kind of like writing it like a blog post, right? Like, who your customer is. You want to be speaking directly to that customer and talking them through the process, right? So he has here like a little bit about the green card process, but like if 90% of your customers are coming from South America or even, Cuba or Colombia or wherever that may be, speak to that process specifically, right? So you could get even a little bit more surgical here by saying like the green card process, like if you're coming from Cuba, if you're coming from Venezuela, if you're coming from Colombia, they're very, very hyper specific to that country. I think that's just a very good way to pick up long tail searches too for people that are looking for specifics to their country in the green card process, which is a nuance, which then also paths into what we're going to talk about next. So this is part 1 of content, right? Part 2 of content is going after more top funnel keywords, right? So when we say top funnel keywords, we're talking things around the blog. So as opposed to, let me just get out of this developer's view real quick, as opposed to, hire an integration attorney near me, that again, like I said, alludes to people that have already self-selected the problem they've identified and they're searching for help at the bottom of the funnel. But what about the people before that? What about the people who might not know if they need an attorney or might not know if they qualify for an attorney? We can go up funnel a little bit, right? And try and target keywords around the blog that are much more informational. So I think that would be a great place to write a post on like the green card process for immigrants from Cuba, right? What does that look like? Much more informational, much more high level that can then capture people more at the top funnel, right? So again, before they're looking for an attorney, I think this is important too, because let's be real here. A lot of attorneys, a lot of attorneys are hired based on referrals and recommendations, right? So if you can't circumvent that process, you can't crack into that. What you can do is you can go above that before somebody asks a friend if they need an attorney, and you can put together content that helps them and puts you in the conversation as an attorney to eventually become that. So again, using this understanding of kind of who your customer is, where they're coming from, and then using the data from keyword tools like Ahrefs, it's not overly difficult to understand. Again, before somebody's looking to hire an attorney, what type of questions do they have around our services, which there are thousands of them, because the legal process in this country is so freaking difficult and convoluted that it triggers and spurns, a lot of questions that people need answers to. So we talked about technical, we talked about content. Part 3 of our analysis framework is links. And if you're not familiar with links, Google essentially looks at a link almost kind of like a vote in a popularity contest, right? The more links that you can get from relevant authoritative sources that are literally linking from that website back to yours, almost kind of like I alluded to like a high school research paper where you've got to use a link as a footnote as a citation. A link is kind of the same thing. So for example, if I don't know, Huffington Post writes an article about the top 10 immigration attorneys in Miami and then links back to those websites, that link is a very big ranking factor with Google, because Google sees it as, okay, if the Huffington Post is talking about you and linking to you, then you must be important. So we want to focus our attention and energy on getting other websites to mention us and then link back to us. So this is also one of the most difficult things to do in SEO, and especially in attorney SEO, because there's not a ton of opportunities, right? Like Huffington Post, like I just said, isn't really writing articles about the top 10 immigration attorneys. So we've got to be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more intentional with how we're getting this link. So we came up with a handful of recommendations. So the first one that we have here is just filling out your profiles on sites like Avvo, FindLaw, legal directories, anything that's at your disposal for free, even if you have to pay for it, right? Not only are those going to serve as solid, what we call like pillowing or foundational links, but what they'll also do is they'll probably drive a little bit of traffic and maybe even pick you up a couple customers and leads. Those websites in themselves, review websites, we're not really going to talk about them here because in my opinion, they deserve their own strategy. That's a little bit outside the scope of SEO, but all of those websites are gold mine for attorneys. You should be active there. You should be getting reviews. You might even want to be advertising on those websites as well, but they do serve as a solid foundation from a link building point of view to just build you a little bit of a presence. So the next one that I have is going to be PR, right? A lot of SEO companies will build links for you, but in reality, the best way to get links is going to be from a traditional PR service. The challenge is it's going to be a little bit more expensive. So there's a couple of ways that you can do it. One of the ways is from a platform called Haro, Haro. It stands for Help a Reporter Out. It's actually something that we offer our clients. Basically, it's a service that sends out an email on a daily basis from attorney-based websites or any type of website that's looking for a quote from an expert. So essentially what you can do is you can leverage your voice, your authority. And these websites love working with a professional like yourself because you are a professional, you've been trained, you have experience, and you can actually comment and provide insight and value and give context to an existing article from a legal point of view. So it's a tremendous way to get, easy PR, drum up PR, and really build a lot of high quality links. It is quite a bit of work, but again, there's companies, there's agencies out there that can handle that for you. It's a very, very important part of SEO. And the final recommendation that I have is guest posting. So guest posting in the SEO space has been something that's kind of been beaten to death a little bit, spammed out a little bit. But the way that I like to pitch and approach it is that you're an attorney. You have a lot of value that in terms of insight that you can offer, a lot of perspective on the legal point of view. But the key here is we got to get you on websites that are relevant, right? So if you can get on another website about law, if you can get on another attorney's website, that's the top placement that you can get there. So what we like to recommend, and we'll often do this on behalf of our clients, is we will find attorney websites that are not in direct competition with you. So instead of going and pitching another immigration attorney website, you can go to Kansas and you can talk to You can pitch, a personal injury attorney website. That's a relevant website. It's an authority website, but it's not in direct competition with you. And that's important because then you can provide content to that website. You can write a blog post. We can write a blog post for you, submit it to them, and then you'll get a link back from a relevant attorney website. One of my favorite things to do in the attorney space. I think it's one of the most effective way to build links. Again, pretty time consuming, but the goal here is really not quantity, it's really quality. If you can get really honestly like 20 to 30 high quality links per year, then you're probably going to get where you need to get to in terms of rankings and traffic.
The only thing I would add on to it is links is also why you want to invest in high quality top of the funnel content, because what you're creating is linkable assets. It's a lot harder to get people to link directly to your commercial type of pages, your service pages, and that sort of thing. By you creating a good resource or a tool of some sort, or if you're an attorney, like an accident attorney, we've done heat maps before, just something that's very easily shareable. You're going to have a lot more success just picking up natural links where someone gets value from the content that you're putting out and decides to share it on their own without you even asking.
So that kind of concludes our traditional analysis framework, but there's another big piece of attorney websites and really getting the quality leads that you need, and that's optimizing for local search. So local search runs on a different algorithm than the traditional search engine listings that ties into Google Maps. So for context here, this is a search for immigration attorney in Hollywood, Florida website that we're looking at here. There's a couple things that you're going to notice. The first thing that you notice up here is these Google screened immigration attorneys. These are sponsored. These are ads. Now, again, we're not going to talk about ads here, but I do highly recommend bidding on this ad type. These are called LSAs, local service ads. These are bought through Google Ads, just the same way you would buy any other ads in Google. These are incredibly impactful because of the placements. And again, they're hyper specific to anything localized. So anytime there's a localized search, these are going to pop up. You get the phone number, you get the reviews. It's just a really, really rich placement, and it drives a lot of business results and a lot of phone calls. You do have to pay for them. It's not a part of SEO. I'm just stating that for the record here. So as we scroll down here, this is what we call the Maps pack here. So there's basically 3 available, and then you get down here into kind of the natural organic listings that we've pretty much been talking about until then. So to get in these Maps pack, again, it is a little bit of a separate process. It is tied to the website in terms of your authority, in terms of, your structure and all that, but there is a little bit of a slightly different process that you're going to want to follow. So I'm actually going to pop this open so we can see all these at the same time. You can see the ads path through here too. And the reason I pop this open is because a lot of the times for any localized search, people are going to kind of zoom in and look very hyper local to them. Maybe not for attorneys. People are going to be willing to drive or even speak to an attorney that's outside of their service area. But if you're like a dentist or something like hyper local like that, it's always going to be based on the Maps pack. So when I click on one of these here, you'll notice that the person that we're talking about here isn't ranking. There's a couple of key factors that we're going to want to optimize here. First and foremost is just making sure that you fill out all of these things here. A lot of businesses tend to skip over this in terms of, your phone number, your website, the services that you offer. Very descriptive. The longer description that you can go here. This is a great description, right? He's got a bunch of keywords in here. It's not just for ranking, it's also for people seeing it, right? They're going to be zooming through here and they're going to be looking for different things that they need. So make sure that you cover everything and really just fill this out to the best of your ability. That includes photos. So a lot of the times businesses will leave this blank. So again, he's clearly working with a solid SEO agency. They've got their outside of their office, pictures of him, the more that you can add in here, the better. I actually saw a stat showing that like businesses with like 20 or more photos picked up like X percentage more searches. So just add as many photos as you can. Again, office, team, services that you offer, anything that can give context. And really the final piece here is reviews. Reviews are one of the major ranking factors here, especially good reviews. You can see he's got 272 5-star reviews. There's a bunch of different strategies that you can deploy for this. Number one is just reaching out to people after you help them, send them a link, send them an email. You can automate that. You can do it manually. But getting these reviews is well worth the additional time and energy because it's pretty much the main ranking factor. I would say Cesar will probably agree with me on that in terms of local search and really showing, again, just like we talked about with links in terms of showing Google that you're popular, showing Google that you're active. If you get a bunch of reviews, it shows Google that you are an active business, and Google doesn't want to show, a rinky-dink business. They want to show active businesses. They want to present the best options for their customers. So that way Google searchers keep coming back to Google to find businesses just like yourself. Do you have anything to add on the local side, Cesar?
The only thing I would add is if you are getting these reviews, kind of goes without saying, but I've seen it where they're not taking advantage of it and displaying those reviews on their actual website. So you definitely want to make sure that if you've earned those reviews and you've put in the hard work, that you're broadcasting that everywhere, including your own site.
So that was a very high level strategy for an immigration attorney here in Miami. Just to kind of recap, so we did a technical review. Usually not going to be a ton of things here. When you see us do other analyses of like e-commerce websites, you'll see that we spend a lot more time on technical, but for the most part, 150 pages or less, 90% of them are blog posts. There's not going to be a lot of technical cleanups that we need to do or spend a lot of time on. So if you're an attorney and you're getting pitched by agencies and they're pitching some long technical cleanup, send this video and I can hash that with them directly. After that, and probably the biggest part of this is going to be content, not just from a blog point of view, but really understanding the different types of content that you need, which isn't much. It's really, really good service pages that target bottom funnel keywords, and then blog posts that target more top funnel. If you can throw in video to show your personality, images, all that type of stuff is going to help you to stand out a little bit, maybe not from Google's ranking algorithm, but if you're in competition with another attorney, I personally would rather work with someone who I can see whose vibe and whose energy that I can feel and see through pictures and see what their work style looks like a little bit. We talked about links. We gave you some link building strategies to really build your authority and popularity with Google. And then we gave you a bunch of tips on localize to rank in the Maps pack. So that's all we got for this week. If you are an attorney and you are looking for help with your SEO, there's a link below. It will take you to a form where you can book a time to talk to either Caesar or myself. We will do the strategy specifically for your website and talk about how much more traffic you can get from Google search. So until then, make sure you like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. See you later.